Jake here for American Trucks, and in this video we're taking a look at the MBRP Armor Black dual rear exit exhaust system fitting 2021 and newer 5-liter F-150s excluding Tremor models. Now I think we can all agree that we love a good exhaust system, especially when it's attached to the Coyote V8. But spending a fortune on an exhaust just isn't in the cards for everyone, and going with a less expensive option runs the risk of getting less than desirable results. And that's where this system from MBRP comes in. It gives you the volume you're looking for, and it does it for a more affordable price than other options too, so it really scratches the itch in both directions. On our loudness meter, we're going to give this one a 3 out of 5, and that makes it about perfect for a daily driven truck. Now, it's no secret around these parts that I like what MBRP does with their exhaust. Dollars to donuts, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better sound and value for your money. Now, this is a full catback system, so it's going to retain your stock catalytic converters as well. And as you heard from the clips at the beginning of the video, this one does err more on the side of subtlety than some other exhausts. It is a definitive change over stock, bringing more of that trademark Coyote howl when you really get into it, and it makes your truck sound a little bit more like a Mustang at idle. Though it's not going to produce so much noise that you'll get your neighbors all riled up, but it is still going to get your truck noticed. Now inside too, you can expect a bit more volume than stock, but it's still not obtrusive. Just a nice low rumble when you're out cruising around, and a bit more wail when you bury the pedal. Now it makes this a great option for a truck that sees daily driver use or just a lot of miles in general. You also aren't going to have to deal with drone issues like you do with some other more budget-friendly systems, and that's thanks in no small part to the resonator and the muffler that are provided here. Now these both have some nice baffling inside to keep things a bit more subdued and stave off that drone we were talking about a moment ago. Part of what keeps the sound more subdued inside is also where the exhaust exits, as these come straight out back under the bumper. Having both the resonator and the muffler again keeps things a little bit more subdued, but you're still gonna get some noise. As you can see, this guy goes pretty much straight through despite all that baffling that we have in there. Another thing that helps keep the sound more subdued as compared to other exhausts is where this one exits, as your tips are gonna come straight out under the rear bumper like a traditional dual rear exit setup. So it's gonna keep the sound a bit further away physically from your ears, so while you can still definitely hear it, it's not going to be booming around inside of the cabin. Now that also gives it a bit of a cool hot rod type look, which personally I am a fan of. And of course, you get some cool tips to cap the whole thing off. And these are featured in a really nice texture black, and they're quite large too, but we'll talk more about that stuff in a moment. Construction here is all mandrel bent aluminized steel, so you're going to get excellent flow in addition to some protection against corrosion and rust, though it won't be quite as much as a system made fully from T304 stainless. But the pipes after that muffler, all this stuff that you see in this section of the table, are also finished in a really cool high temp black powder coat. Whereas most companies are just going to finish the exhaust tip, MBRP did this whole section again from the muffler back. It's a really nice finish, it looks pretty cool, it's stealthy, it's going to lend itself to a more subtle look even with these gigantic tips. And especially if your truck is a darker color, it's going to set it off pretty nicely. It's definitely a unique touch and adds that little extra something. And of course, you get these 4-inch black coated dual wall T304 stainless steel exhaust tips with the MBRP logo on it to cap it all off like we were just talking about a moment ago. Overall though, it's a pretty solidly built setup given everything that you've got here. You've got your nice welds on the muffler here, your resonator comes with the clamp, and you get all the clamps and stuff that you need included for the installation too. But again, we'll talk more about that in a moment. Pricing will come in around $950, which I know using $950 and the word affordable in the same sentence doesn't necessarily equate for most of us. However, that does put it closer to the lower end of the price spectrum when it comes to catbacks for this gen of F-150. And for what you're getting here, I do think this is a pretty good value. You're getting some good protection in a package that's pretty well built and has a really good sound to it. So if you want an exhaust that's going to fit well and it's going to improve your experience without wiping your bank account clean, this is a great option for you to consider. Installation, as is typical for an exhaust, is going to get a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter and should take you about 2 hours to get things buttoned up. Now, exhaust can be a bit finicky to work on because most of us do not have access to a lift in our garage or driveway, but this is certainly a job you can accomplish at home. Now, this is a bolt-on system. There's no modification needed to your truck, and you do get all of the clamps and the additional hangers that you need to get this bolted up properly. However, it is worth noting that you might need to make a cut to the extension pipe here depending on the size of your cab and bed. However, it is just one cut to this new pipe right here, and MBRP includes instructions on exact measurements to make it simple to accomplish. And we'll also talk through that over in the install bay. Speaking of which, let's head over now and we'll walk you through the process.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a ratchet, an exhaust hanger remover tool, a 14 and 15 millimeter wrench, a 15 millimeter ratcheting wrench, a tape measure, a marker, an 8 millimeter Allen wrench, an extension, 17 millimeter swivel socket, 10, 13, 14, and 15 millimeter sockets, and a saw. What's up guys? Today we're installing an exhaust on our F-150, so let's get started. So to remove our exhaust, we're gonna start up front. From the factory, these have two 13 millimeter bolts. However, our hardware has been replaced, so I'm gonna be using a 17 millimeter socket and 15 millimeter wrench to get our hardware off. So now we're starting on the flange right in front of our resonator. Like I said, the factory is a 13 millimeter bolt. Since ours was replaced, we've got a 17 millimeter socket and 15 millimeter wrench. Next, we can come back to the rubber isolator right in front of our muffler and take an exhaust hanger remover tool to pop that out. Next, we can come to the isolator at the back of our muffler. We have a 10 millimeter bolt that we can remove to make this hanger come off a little bit easier. So I'll take a 10 millimeter socket to pop that out. Now the last thing holding our exhaust on is this rearmost hanger. We have a 10 millimeter bolt in the bottom and the side. Now you're gonna wanna grab yourself a buddy to support the weight of the exhaust while you remove this, because that is the last thing that's holding this up. So now I've got a buddy at the front side of our exhaust. I'm gonna remove those last two bolts for this rearmost hanger, and then we can wiggle this out of place. And now with our exhaust removed, we can pop our two isolators off of those rods. So I've got an exhaust hanger remover tool to do that. Now before we install our new exhaust, the first thing we're going to do is reinstall the two hangers that we removed from our factory exhaust. So our first one, the solid tab, is going to slide into the square hole and we'll put our bolt through, and then we just have our two bolts for our second one in the rear. And once we have our bolt threaded in, we'll take a 10 millimeter socket and tighten that down. Now moving on to the rear, we'll put our bolt from the side in first, and then our bottom one. And then we'll tighten both of those down with that 10 millimeter socket. Now before we start installing our exhaust, it's important to note that we have our extension pipe here Depending on your cab and bed configuration, you might need to cut this or use the whole thing. For our application for the Super Crew with the 5.5 foot bed, we're gonna need to cut this down to 25.25 inches. So we're gonna measure from our slip joint out, make our mark, and then we'll take it over to the saw and make our cut. So now we'll grab our tape measure, start from one end, and then take our marker and make a mark at 25.25 inches. And now we're ready to take this over to the saw. So now we're over at the saw. I've got my pipe set up and lined up. So now we can go ahead and make our cut. Now with our cut made, we can come over to the grinder to clean up our edges. Now next we can hop to the back of the truck and install our new hangers included with the kit. We're going to be installing these through our frame rails with these long bolts. We have a small washer and a large washer on one side that'll go through, and then we'll put our hanger onto our bolt, and then we have another big washer, small washer, a lock washer, and a nut. So now right in front of our rear leaf spring mount, we have this large circular hole. It's right next to this triangle hole. So we'll take our bolt with our small and large flat washer, take that over our frame and through the hole. And then we'll get our second large washer and then our hanger. And then our small flat washer, our lock washer, and our nut. And then for right now, we're gonna leave this loose so that we have adjustment when we go to install our tailpipes. And once you're done with this side, you can do that same exact thing on the other side. So now we're ready to raise our resonator up into place. I've got a pole jack here to support the weight of it while we get our bolts installed. Now we can go back and tighten down our hardware. The factory bolt size is going to be a 13 millimeter. However, ours has been replaced. So I've got a 17 millimeter socket and 15 millimeter wrench. Next, we can install our extension pipe. The first thing we need to do is set up our hanger clamp. We have a large hole and a slot, so we're gonna pinch down on our clamp and slide the nut through the big hole and into that slot. Then we can get this onto our extension pipe and put our rod through our rubber isolator. Next, we can install our extension pipe. So we'll take a 3-inch clamp and slide that over the edge of our pipe. And then we can slide that onto our resonator outlet. And then we can grab a 15 millimeter socket and tighten down our clamp. Next, we can install our muffler, but first we're gonna have to set up our hanger clamp. So you're gonna grab a 3-inch clamp. We have our hanger that has a big hole and then a slot. You're gonna pinch down on your clamp and then slide your nut into that slot. And then we can throw that onto our muffler and raise this up into place. Now we're ready to raise our muffler up into place. So we'll get that rod through our rubber isolator first and then slide our muffler into place. Next, we can take a 15 millimeter socket to tighten down our clamp. Next, we can take 2 of our 2.5-inch clamps and slide those onto our muffler outlet. Next, we can grab our driver side over axle pipe. Now we can go back to our clamp and get that into place and take a 15mm socket to tighten it down. Next, we can do the same for our passenger side over axle pipe. And once again, slide our clamp into place and take a 15mm socket to tighten it down. Next, we can install our driver side tailpipe. So we're gonna get this rod into the hanger that we installed first. And then we'll raise our pipe up to our over axle pipe. Next, we can grab a 15mm socket to tighten down our clamp. Next, we can install our tip. And then we'll take an 8mm Allen wrench to tighten that down. Next, we can install our passenger side tailpipe. I've got another 2.5-inch clamp on the edge here. So we'll get this into our isolator first, and then we can raise this up and into place. Now we can go back and tighten down our clamp. I'm using a 15mm ratcheting wrench here because we don't really have a lot of room. Next, we can install our tip. And then take our 8mm Allen wrench to tighten that down. And now we can go back to our hanger and take a 14mm socket and a 14mm wrench to tighten this down. And then you can do that same thing on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the MBRP Armor Black Dual Exhaust System with rear exit for your 2021 and newer 5.0 liter F-150, excluding the Tremor. Thank you for watching, and for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.